All right, so we are going to take notes for a little bit, get our assignment that we can start working on. That we'll work on today. I'll assign to you today. That will be what you work on Wednesday, Thursday, and it's due on Friday. So it'll be our last assignment that we look at in this section. So we're at section 2, the rise of big business. And we kind of looked at, all right, let's put phones away, people, and close up our laptops. We kind of looked at all these inventions, and we have all these inventors inventing all of these things. And now we're going to look at how those inventions created big business. And so that's what our look at will be for really the rest of this chapter. Section 3's got stuff a little bit, bless you, about unions, and we'll look at that really briefly on Thursday, but we really look at unions as we move into our next couple of chapters. So the triumph of industry, section 2, rise of big business. Until the mid-19th century, most businesses, yes. Is this not right?
I think it'd be the slide right before this section.
Oh, sorry. Ooh, I'm ahead of myself. Thank you, Kevin. All right, business changes America. In order to meet a growing demand, well, this is why we don't know that part because I didn't get to it. Factories use methods to fulfill these demands. So we've created all these awesome inventions, light bulbs, typewriters, telephones, and somehow we have to get those things to people. And the way that we're going to get these things to people is factories. And these factories will be created to fulfill this mass demand. The light bulb, telephone especially, creates a huge demand. Everybody wants or needs those. America starts exporting grain, steel, and textiles in huge amounts. And again, one of that is a result of the sewing machine. And we become a world economic superpower. And I would make sure that you underline that because that's the outcome of this chapter. This chapter defines how the United States becomes an economic superpower. Mechanization of farming meant that fewer farmers were needed to produce food. And that will be one of the things that we'll look at in our next chapter, that all of these people that lived on family farms, people now are no longer needed. So like many of you, I'm sure, if you think about your great-grandparents, or maybe your grandparents. I'm getting older that I have to go to the great-grandparents. But my granny and papa, one of them had like 12 brothers and sisters. The other one had 14 brothers and sisters. This is in rural North Carolina, and they virtually had a kid every time one left. And spread out. My granny was one of the older ones. She was the second oldest, and her youngest brother was almost 30 years younger than her. And why did they keep having them? Because they were on a farm, and those were the people that helped. But as we start to mechanize those farms, if we think about now how many people are needed on American farms, we're down to maybe 2-3 people as opposed to the 10-15 that it needed. That will happen on our next chapter. So where all those people are going to go when they no longer are needed on the farm? They move to cities. And this is a necessary part because in order to run a factory, you need a lot of people. And so because farming and rural America no longer had jobs for all these people, they start to move to cities. And these places become a gigantic explosion of these cities. And it's a two-way difficult part of this. One, cities were not ready to have this massive influx of people from rural areas. The second part of that is, what do the job skills that these people have? I know how to plow a field. It doesn't really work well in Chicago or New York City. And so they're forced into these positions with these factories that demand minimal amount of job skill. People start to raise concern about the impact of industrialization on the environment. Little teeny tiny bit, not a lot. We're not going to have anybody worried yet about pouring oil into the Hudson River or dumping sewage sludge into the Chicago River. No one's really going to think about that yet. there'll be a few people. But one of the responses will be that Congress will set aside protected lands. And our first federal park, Yellowstone. Has anybody ever been to Yellowstone before? I've never been to Yellowstone before. Created in 1872. So we're not fixing the environment where the bad stuff is occurring, but we are recognizing that we need to save and set aside land. And we'll meet Yellowstone Park and the National Park System in the upcoming chapters. Now we're going to move to Triumph of Industry. So now we've got 4 things happening. We've got inventors inventing things. We've got lots of people moving into cities. We have a massive demand for all of these products. So the 4th thing is building these factories and generating a lot of income. And so this will be where we look at profits. Until the 19th century, most businesses were run by one person or a family. That's still a lot today, that businesses are run by families. And businesses can't grow. They can't get any bigger than if they were able to fill the need within their families. Most of these businesses are local. And what's going to change these 2 things are railroads, that we can move our goods, and industrialization. Much like the internet changed the way people shopped and had access to goods, so does the railroad, right? I can order stuff on the internet from anywhere around the world, and in any country, and except if you order things from China, it takes like forever to get stuff from China. But other places, we move goods fairly quickly. I am able to get certain foods that I absolutely love from North Carolina that I can't find here, and get them now shipped to me in a fairly quick time. So this is what's going to change business. And one of the first things that changes is corporations. Business leaders combine their funds and their resources, and they form corporations. And it protects them from losing more than their original investment. So I'm going to borrow Chris's family's business yet again, because that's an easy one to do. And I would bet that your father has an LLC, a limited liability corporation. If you watch a lot of late night TV, or you listen to any like Sirius radio and you're listening to news programs, there are people advertising LLCs all the time. And that's a limited liability corporation. And what that means is, if, for instance, at Chris's family business, if someone gets hurt, either working at that business or coming into the place of business, let's say they walk into the place of business and one of those, I'm just making something up, I don't know, a big old canister of paint falls and breaks their leg. If that happens to me, I'm going to sue the business for as much money as I can get. That's the way that works. What that corporation does is it keeps me from accessing the Garrett's personal property. So before corporations, and that happened, I could sue them for everything they owned: their house, your college fund, your car, the land their business operates on. And that's why no one went into business, because it was a financially could be very difficult situation. So a corporation says, if I get hurt in that place of business, I can only sue business assets. And so my assumption would be that the Garretts have all of that stuff highly protected, all of their personal assets protected from their business. Should, gosh forbid, their business go bankrupt, that they still have a house to live in, that they still have a bank account. That's why when you see all of these very wealthy people going bankrupt, that's why they never lose their houses, because they have all of that separated. While we see NBA stars that make billions of dollars go bankrupt, it's why they still live large, because they've set themselves up like a business. And that helps business to operate. A corporation has the same rights as a person. And so you can separate, you can buy, you can sue in courts. And when that happens, business explodes. So corporations have access to huge amounts of capital because they're people and they can borrow money. And so capital is money. They can borrow money to fund new technology, to enter new industries, run large corporations across the United States. And I would add that I always forget to put this part on this slide, employ a lot of people. I would add that at the bottom for this so that you've got that extra yourself. Corporations will employ a lot of people and pay those people very well. So they fund new technology, create new businesses, create new jobs, and they expand across the country. So that's what the benefits of corporations are. And these corporations, again, are going to be fabulously wealthy, like no other corporations we've ever seen in the whole wide world. And just so that you know, these people are still alive. I don't know how many of you watch any kind of cable news, but Anderson Cooper, who is on a news network, he is a Vanderbilt, which is why he has access to a lot of money. But he is a Vanderbilt of the Vanderbilts. All right, so all the corporations has all this stuff. So gaining a competitive edge. Corporations work to maximize profits. That's what we're trying to do. Maximize our profits. So how do we maximize our profits? The largest portion of profit goes to paying your workers. And if you can offer low wages and no benefits, you're going to make a big profit. And I would venture to say if Chris sat down with his dad and talked about his business, he would say the largest part of our profit goes to paying employees, or it might be government oversight paying that, but that's an added thing. So if you can pay your wages cheap or not pay them at all, and you offered no benefits, you're going to make a lot of money. One of the ways that you can do those low wages is if you have a lot of people that can do that job. So I'm also going out on a limb and saying that the people that work at Chris's business are not people with low skills. They have high demand skills and they probably get paid really well because that's a skill that not a lot of people have. Working at the Dairy Queen, which I know they pay well, but that's a low skilled. You don't have to have special skills to do that. Working in a factory where you're just turning knobs, anyone can do that. And if I have 50 people standing at my gate every morning and I only need 5 people to work, I just start at the top. How many of you work for $1 a day? Everybody raise their hand. How many's going to work for 90 cents a day? And I just keep going until I get the 5 people that I need. Because I don't hire people to work every day. Every day I'm going to go stand out at my gate of my light bulb factory and say, I need 10 people. How many of you will work for 5 cents an hour? How many of you will work for 4 cents an hour? And eventually I get the 10 people I need for the cheapest amount of price. I'm paying you no benefits. You don't get sick time. You don't get workman's comp. If you get hurt on the job, if you lose an eyeball, you lose an arm, I hope you find a job for a one-armed person because there are no benefits for any of those things. There's no workman's comp. There's no unemployment. There's no welfare of any sort. The next one is paying lower prices for raw materials. And again, that will be something we'll talk about. Supporting research labs and advertising products. That's what we did with our poster, was advertising. So corporations use strategy to eliminate competition. So how do I also get wealthy and rich? Is I eliminate my competition. What we're getting ready to discuss is completely illegal in the 20th and 21st century. You can no longer set up business practices like this, which is why when we look at our assignment, the top 3 wealthiest people still in the United States of America, if they were alive, will be these 3 men, Vanderbilt, Morgan, and Rockefeller, because they were able to use these unfair business practices. You cannot have a monopoly currently in the United States of America. It is anti-capitalism. But if you could, you would get as wealthy as these people. So they create a monopoly. And cartels and monopolies force competitors out of business. And these, after we get these definitions, we'll talk about how that happens. A cartel, corporations making the same product, agree to limit the number of products they make and set a price. So you potentially could see this happening at Christmas time. And please, I do not know who all these games people makes, what they are. I don't know the difference between Nintendo or Sega or Wii. But every Christmas, something is new, and there's always a limit. And then January 15th, they're everywhere. That's on purpose by design, so that if it limits how many Sony PlayStations or whatever they make is available, then everybody can increase their prices until after Christmas, and then there's a flood of them. And if you know that, you understand the way that they make their money. Monopoly, much like the game of Monopoly, the goal of the Monopoly game is to do what? Anybody know what the goal of Monopoly is? There's a goal.
Get rich.
It is to get rich, but there's a what?
On the most amount of land.
On what? One whole side of the board. That's the goal of Monopoly. I hate that game so much. I hate Monopoly. But the goal of Monopoly is to get one whole side of the board, all those properties, so that on one side of the board, you cannot not land somewhere on that board. It's purposely the spaces between the corners are more than 12 so that you have to land someplace on that side of the board. If you don't know that about Monopoly, that's the goal. Not to just buy properties willy-nilly. It's to concentrate on one side of the board so that you can get them. And once you control the product or the service, you cut a competitor out. You can keep anyone out of business, and you can keep them from raising their prices. So how do you do that? With horizontal and vertical integration. So this is how you're going to do that. And this is how horrible I am. Horizontal means this way, right? That's horizontal.
Yes.
No, is this?
That's horizontal.
Okay.
I think vertical.
Vertical's up and down. Gotcha. I'm not good at this part. Okay, so horizontal businesses mean I own every aspect of the business from the moment it comes out until the other end. So horizontal means that, for instance, Rockefeller uses horizontal. He was in oil, and so he owned all aspects of the drilling process all the way till it got to the end. So how do I keep people out? So, and I'm going to start with the drilling process. I'm going to buy a company that makes drill bits. I'm going to buy every company that makes drill bits. I'm going to buy every company that manufactures barrels to put oil in. I'm going to buy every company that has transportation to move that oil. And then I'm going to buy every gas station that I possibly can. I own all of that portion. And I do that for this reason. So Carter wants to get into the oil business. And he buys land and he sends out to salesman, hey, I need to buy some drill bits. I want to drill in this part and I'm going to look for oil. As soon as he starts looking for drill bits, all of my companies that own drill bits will notify me and say, hey, somebody's looking to drill for oil. I'll say one of two things: either don't sell to him or sell it to him really high. So somebody decides, well, I'm going to make some money on Carter. I'm going to sell it really high. So they sell him a really high price drill bit, 10 times more than it's worth. Carter says, I'm going for it anyway. I know there's oil here. He gets it. He drills. He hits oil. Now he's got to put his oil in barrels. Same thing. I own all the companies that make barrels. I say to my companies, charge him 10 times what you do for anybody else. He pays it. He gets his oil out to the gas stations. And then this is where I'm going to bury him. I'm going to bury him because I have 50 gas stations. He has one. He puts his gas station out. He's selling his gas for $1 a gallon. I drop mine to 80 cents. Drop them all to 80 cents. Everybody's coming. So he has no choice but to drop his to 80 cents. I drop mine to 50. then he has no choice but to drop his to 50. At a certain point, he will make no profit because I've charged him up the wazoo for the drill bits. I've charged him up the wazoo for the barrels, and I can just sit and wait. Why? Because I got billions of dollars, and I can wait him out for as long as necessary. I will be sending people to him every day. Hey, Rockefeller wants to buy you out. He'll buy you out right now. He'll pay you 3 times what that's worth. Carter's like, no, I'm going to stand here. And I can get to the point where I'm selling my gas for 10 cents a gallon and still make money. Just to give you a perspective, in 1890, Mrs. Rockefeller spent $6,000 of $1890 a week on flowers for her house. What do you do at the end of the week with flowers? You throw them away. That's how much money. There's no way anyone's going to enter the business. There's no way. I own all parts of it from the beginning to the end. You can't enter. And hopefully you can see why we made that illegal. It's illegal. It's the opposite of capitalism. He's never going to be able to enter the market because I have so much money. The other one is vertical. And in that aspect, I own all the parts of the production. So in that part, I am buying, again, all the steel mills. Carnegie's and Steel, I buy them all. And again, you want to buy steel, you're buying it from me. And there's no one else. And so as a result of this, and again, during this time period, all of these things are legal. You can legally do all of them, but hopefully you can see why the business and as people trying to enter the business wanted to make these processes illegal. You can't do it today. Recently, probably in the last 10 years, the company that gets brought to court all the time for monopolies is Microsoft. And they've been found guilty several times of monopolist tendencies. But we don't have these. That's why, again, these people are going to get rich. They have zero competition. So tycoons, we're going to have just 2 more quick slides to finish up so you can do your assignment. So Rockefeller Standard Oil, use horizontal and vertical. Carnegie Steel, vertical. And Cornelius Vanderbilt's going to build railroads. So these are our tycoons. So your assignment is going to focus on this question. Are they robber barons or captains of industry? I always feel like I need to say like that in Justice League. So first you need to know what a baron is. A baron is a title. A baron is like a duke or a earl. A robber is somebody that robs you. And again, the United States, we don't have titles. So traditionally, these people are known as robber barons because they are robbing people in both ways. They're taking advantage of their workers. They're killing all competition. So consumers, workers, governments began to feel trust, and cartels give these men an unfair advantage. And because these businesses were thought to swindle the poor people, they become known as robber barons. Or many thought they deserved the nickname captains of industry. And the reason being, they provide jobs, technology, lots of new technology. If we think about Edison and his thousands of patents that he had on all these inventions. And these are the men that created the United States as an economic superpower. Also, many of these were philanthropists and provided lots of charitable fundings. They provided universities like Vanderbilt. They built museums. They built libraries. Does anybody work at the Sullivan County Library? Anybody ever walk into the Sullivan County Library? Okay. Do you see when you walk in, there's that historical marker sign, which is part of our assignment. Our Sullivan County Library is built by Carnegie money. If you look at that, you'll see it in our assignment. If you look at that sign, Carnegie spent billions of his dollars building libraries across rural America. And typically what happened, and then Sullivan's Public Library is one, it was a matching fund. So some nice little ladies in Sullivan County got together, raised some money, and then Carnegie either matched it or doubled it, which is why our library building is so pretty and why it's not just a brick building. It was built with Carnegie funds. So next time you go to the library, take a sneak peek. Well, actually, you're going to see it in your assignment. So our assignment that we're looking at today, that's your assignment for Wednesday. It is due on Friday. It's our last assignment that we're working on this week, is you are going to determine, are these people robber barons or captains of industry? So as you're moving around, first and foremost, I don't care which one you pick. So all of my people that want to always get the right answer, there is not a right answer. If I brought in 10 historians, everybody would have a different answer. I feel differently about them from time to time myself. So it is not important that you pick the one I think. It's important that you support your answers. So if we look at Canvas and open up our assignment, shoot, where are we at? And it is one of our first things that we're going to do with documents. And it is called Captains of Industry. If you look at this assignment, do you believe that the tycoons listed in Chapter 4 could be described and vilified, and vilified means villains, as robber barons, or should they be admired as captains of industry? Complete the following document analysis using the attached file and the worksheet. So the documents are in this one, and there are a bunch of different documents in this. Where'd it go? Oh, good grief. Okay, you have to move out of the way. Is this it? I don't think this is it. Hold on a minute. Nope, that's about railroads. Where are you at? All right, I'll find it this way. Oh, good grief. Where'd it go? Hold on a minute. Have you guys found it and opened it? Where did I put it? Okay, so this is a chart. And this is all the supporting evidence. Did I not put it in there? Did I put the wrong file? I think I might have put the wrong file in there. I need to do that because that's just the document. All right, let me pause and put that up